After a lifetime of loyalty, he was cast aside as if he had never existed. It was just another ordinary day on the farm. The gray sky already seemed to predict what was to come. Lying under the withered shade of a lonely tree, his eyes tired and his body weakened, was Velvet, the ox who carried on his back the weight of a lifetime of service. Nobody looked at him anymore. No one called him by name anymore. Not even the man he served for so many years. The boss. Velvet wasn't just an animal. It was strength, it was courage, it was presence. From a young age, still a calf, he was molded to work. Every sunrise, there he was, pulling loads, plowing land, crossing difficult trails, facing rain, scorching sun, and sometimes even hunger itself, all without ever backing down, without ever hesitating, and all of this for one reason: he trusted. He believed his effort had value, that his sacrifice would not be in vain. But life doesn't always reward those who give the most. The scene is too harsh to ignore. An old ox with its ribs exposed, deep-set eyes and a shuffling gait, without the strength to even stand for a long time, without decent shelter, without care, without affection. The same ox that for years was the pride of the farm, today is treated as an uncomfortable burden, dead weight. He gave his all, and in the end, there was only silence. There was no goodbye. There was no gratitude, just oblivion. Stories like this aren't just about animals. They are mirrors of our own humanity. They show how cruel ingratitude can be, how loyalty can be misinterpreted as obligation, and how those who serve the most are often the first to be discarded. Velvet was strong, but time passes even for the bravest. And when his legs no longer responded as before, when the weight of time began to take its toll, the boss simply looked away. A man who grew up side by side with that animal, who witnessed every drop of sweat up close, now pretended it no longer existed. It's not just a sad story. It is a faithful portrayal of the silent injustice that haunts the scenes in real life. It's about unappreciated loyalty, about abandonment disguised as routine, about the sacrifice that doesn't even yield a thank you. How many Velvets are there out there? How many give their all and, in the end, are left to their own devices? This story goes far beyond the relationship between man and animal. It's an open wound that forces us to reflect. Are we really seeing those who walk with us, or are we just using them until they no longer serve us? Prepare to dive into a narrative of silent pain, unfair abandonment, and a truth that few have the courage to face. Because what happened to Veludo is still far from over. He had arrived at the farm when he was still young, full of strength and hope, full of simple dreams, to live in peace, to be useful, to serve with honor. Since he was a boy, he heard the call of the earth, felt the heat of the sun on his skin, the smell of the morning that announced work was in sight. Velvet didn't start his life like any ox, was chosen for a mission. Just like a man who assumes his vocation from an early age, Veludo took on, without complaining, the arduous tasks of those he serves. He would go to the pasture before dawn, pull the cart, clean the hoe, drag furrows in the packed earth. He never asked, "Why me?" He simply accepted it with humility. He never asked for anything, he just wanted to do good. That first year, he was strong as the wind that sweeps the plain. Ears pricked, eyes alive, muscles tense beneath shiny fur. The boss put him forward, trusted him. Veludo felt valued, or at least he believed so, because with each completed task, he saw the sweat of his work turned into harvests, into open trails. He knew that his life, although simple, had meaning. The value of his loyalty was reflected in every cost paid, in every silent sacrifice. Sacrifice was the word that shaped Veludo's existence. He sacrificed permanent rest, ignored the pains that arose, stifled the inner groans. When the rains came, it was exposed. When the sun hit, he didn't give up. When others floated in the shade, he continued pulling. He put others before himself. The chickens, the tractors, the plow, the man in charge, the boss's children running around. Velvet was a silent servant. He didn't complain about the injuries, the ribs that were slowly starting to appear. Yes, he felt it, but he didn't say anything. He chose to remain silent because he believed that serving was the best way to exist. In the years that followed, Velvet became synonymous with confidence. The boss saw him and trusted him. He trusted so much that he took Veludo to the most difficult places, the bumpiest trails, the harvests that required the most weight. And Veludo responded with breath, with persistence, with a strength that seemed inexhaustible. It became part of the routine, invisible to the immense noise of life, but indispensable in the silence of toil. He was not seen as an old ox or a piece of equipment, at least not in the early years. He was recognized, he was the chosen one. And even so, deep down, Veludo kept his dream of being recognized for what he did, not for glory or applause, but for gratitude. He dreamed that the day would come when the boss would say, "You did a lot. You deserved rest, care, respect." But that day, he didn't know yet, was too far away. Time passed. The strength began to give way. Muscles became slower. Patience intensified in supporting the weight that he previously lifted with vigor. Velvet felt small pains, a leg that wobbled, a morning when it took him a while to get up. Still, he continued, because it was his essence, to serve, to persist, to give without waiting. He never mentioned that he was tired. He never complained that he dedicated too much. He just did it. He was an example of sacrifice and loyalty. In the midst of the daily service, Veludo saw short-term friends arrive and be discarded when the cycle changed. He saw new, younger oxen arrive with strength and vigor and were placed at the front. He could at any moment ask, "What about me?" But he didn't. He remained faithful because he believed that sooner or later good treatment would come. He believed in the justice of real life, that those who truly serve deserve care, deserve respect. But sometimes real life shows that loyalty doesn't guarantee reward. Sometimes sacrifice just becomes routine. Sometimes abandonment pretends to be silence. And then, on a morning like any other, the silent blow arrived. The boss appeared, looked at Veludo, hesitated. Instead of a "good job," he just raised his voice from afar. "Get that old ox out of the way." Velvet remained still, eyes widening. The body shook for a second. He had waited so long. He had served so much. He had believed so much. He gave his all. And in the end, there was only silence. The farm continued to turn. The land continued to demand. The new tractors arrived. Velvet was pushed into the corner. There it stayed, alone. No plow to pull, no trail to clear, no party at the end of the day. The boss's gaze fled from him. The neighbor passed by and didn't even notice. The chickens circled him with pity. He was the ox that was no longer worth it, not just because of his age, but because of the ingratitude that forms like a heavy stone in the heart of those who were left behind. Velvet didn't ask for anything. He never asked for anything. His reward was respect, care, presence. But not even that remained. Silence filled his days. The abandonment made him groan. He was an example of dedication. Now, it was an example of forgetfulness. He had served his entire life. And now was the time when he needed at least a minimal gesture, someone to see that he existed. But there was no gesture, no hand to caress, no thanks for everything, no special food to make up for the years, no extra shade for your rest. He stood there with his ribs showing, his strength waning, his gaze asking, in the silence, for a sign of recognition. And as the sun fell that late afternoon, Veludo breathed slowly, perhaps thinking about all the days he got up, all the dawns he smiled without smiling, all the times he supported the weight of others. He remembered when he was young, strong, and believed that that boss was like a brother, or even like a father, and that ox did more than expected, more than required, because true loyalty doesn't measure effort. True loyalty is giving without asking how much more. A real sacrifice is to support those who celebrate in the light in the shadows. Have you ever seen someone who served so much, dedicated themselves so much, and was left aside? Have you ever talked to an old worker who looked back and realized that no one was calling him anymore? Maybe you saw it, maybe it's you, maybe it's someone you know. Leave it in the comments. Have you ever been Veludo? Or have you ever left someone like Velvet? Type this there so I know. I want to hear your story, and I want this video to be a space where the painful silence is broken. Because it's not just about an ox. It's about everyone who serves, everyone who sacrifices, everyone who loves without receiving anything in return, everyone who is left alone when the world moves on. And the world moves on. The harvests continue. Tractors cut the land. Real life pulses relentlessly. But Velvet stood still, and his abandonment speaks louder than any plow. There are marks on his face, marks of broken illusions, of promises never made, of thanks never acknowledged. There are traces on his body, traces of the youth that passed away, of the strength that diminished, of the hope that became waiting. And it remains, even when no one else is watching, even when no one else values it. But it's not just a sad story to make you get emotional and leave. It's a warning, a mirror, a call to attention, to see who is at your side, to see who serves in silence. Because sometimes the boss is not just the one who commands, but the one who ignores, and the servant is not just the one who works, but the one who waits. And when we get to the next part, you will understand what late recognition really means, what happens when the world turns its back on those who never turned its back on it. Stay with me, and prepare yourself for the moment when the reward turned into abandonment and the sacrifice became history. He had already given his all, but it was precisely at the moment he needed it most that the world around him decided to turn its back. That day arrived almost imperceptibly, but its impact would be forever. The routine changed. Those silent claps in the early morning, the creaking of the plow at the end of the afternoon, the trusting look of the master, everything disappeared in a breath. The system, once complicit in his perseverance, silently turned against him. Velvet was forgotten. Over time, the boss found excuses to replace him. He's too old, they said. It doesn't pay off like it used to. But the worst part wasn't just being replaced. It was the realization that the value he had invested, the loyalty he had cultivated, was disposable. The new machines arrived. The newest oxen were hired, or rather, placed. And he, the one who pulled furrows, who endured the routine, who accepted the sacrifice, was left in the empty pasture, without a task, without a purpose. And when he needed it most, no one showed up. The retirement that seemed deserved was never granted. Nobody communicated him, nobody guided him. The silent promise of recognition disappeared in the wind. He who was so often praised as an irreplaceable muscle now found doors closed. The forgotten vaccination booklet, the neglected rest space, the rationed food. Indifference took the place of gratitude. He who had served his entire life now knew, with pain, that there was no plan to take care of him. He cared for others, and when his body cried out for care, he only heard the echo of nothingness. The betrayal also came, slowly, like a drop that pierces the rock. The farm workers looked at him with a mixture of embarrassment and indifference. He's gone. The boss, who once patted his chest and said, "This ox is part of our family," now said, "Move on, we have others." The boss's family, who for so many years ran alongside him on the harvest festival days, now didn't even remember his name. Veludo, the ox that supported the farm, was now invisible. He, who never asked for anything, I just wanted to do good. The abandonment of the boss's family, the one he helped indirectly, relieving the burden of farming, providing food and survival, was a blow to the heart. He watched helplessly as the children grew up, as new horses replaced him, as equipment was cut that reduced the use of his shoulders. The sun still shone, The seasons still changed, but for him there were no longer harvest ceremonies where he was celebrated. Now he was passed over. He sat down, looked at the horizon, and remembered the days when he was pulled vigorously, when the applause was discreet, when the boss said, "Good job." Now absolutely nothing. The negligence of superiors became a cruel routine. Maintenance requests were ignored. Wounds on the paws took days to be treated. Quality food was replaced with leftovers. The shelter was given over to rusty machinery. Every negligence screamed before his eyes, and the silence of the farm spoke louder than any words. There are those who work for years, those who sacrifice without complaining, those who maintain the faith that their efforts will be recognized, and then wonder why they were left alone. Velvet lived it, and he lived longer. He suffered because he believed, and when he needed it most, no one showed up. He tried to get up one cold morning, felt his legs give way, and instead of a helping hand, he was ignored. The boss didn't come. The foreman turned his face away. The other animals avoided him, and the wind carried the sound of new tractors, of lively harvests, of the laughter of those who no longer remembered him. Injustice stifled the entire field. Ingratitude contaminated what was once an alliance. He drifted, and in the center of that drift, the pain of loneliness took root. There are moments that mark us forever. The day Velvet couldn't get up on his own, and his paw sank into the mud. The day the boss asked, "Who's gonna pull the cart now?" and turned his back. The day that the shade he found to rest in disappeared because the shed fell into ruin, and no one cared. Moments that reveal the true face of abandonment. And they reveal that no matter how much someone serves, no matter how much someone sacrifices, recognition is not certain, and ingratitude can live wherever. Until then, respect lived. As the farm moved forward, new agents took place. Autonomous tractors, modern breeds of cattle, contract workers who arrived with a new contract. Velvet, once a symbol of confidence and strength, was now a monster of memory, an uncomfortable reminder that what serves too much can become invisible. He understood. He saw the machines cut the land. He saw the young oxen pulling the harness with vigor. He saw the master celebrating his profits while riding in a new car. And him? He remained there, alone, abandoned. With the body wounded by time, the spirit wounded by ingratitude. Can you imagine? Can you feel it? He looked at the green pasture and didn't see himself there anymore. He asked himself, "Who have I served so much for?" The answer was the cold laughter of the wind. He never asked for anything. "I just wanted to do good. I just wanted recognition. I just wanted someone to say, 'Thank you.'" And when that thank you didn't come, silence became the loudest sound in your life. And then loneliness became a companion. He did not sleep under the harness, but under the open sky without protection. The rains came, the mud formed, the wounds opened, and no one came. The boss had other concerns. The machines broke down, the new hires didn't ask your name, and the shed that used to store the tools now kept unused parts, and Veludo next door, forgotten. Ingratitude needed no words. It manifested itself in carelessness, in the gaze that averted, in the accelerated pace that ignored your stumble. But understand, this is a real-life story of pain, of sacrifice, of abandonment. It is a story that demands reflection. It's for anyone who's ever felt invisible, for anyone who's ever been left aside, for anyone who's ever shown loyalty and received silence in return. If you know someone who experienced this, type in the comments, "Have you ever been Veludo?" Or, "Has anyone ever left you like Velvet?" I want to see your answer. I want this space to be about breaking the silence. And as you follow along with me, realize that what seemed like a simple ox, a farm, a rural routine, all of this is a symbol. Symbol of people who dedicate, who love, who serve, and who are abandoned. Symbol of hearts that beat hard, hands that work, lives that run out. And this symbol grows when we open our eyes to see, when we stop pretending everything is okay. Because for Veludo, it wasn't. The turning point was brutal. Confidence became an obstacle. Dedication became ballast. Loyalty became forgotten history. And in the midst of this whirlwind, Velvet, with empty eyes, stood firm. He didn't run away. He did not resist for revenge. He resisted because he never wanted to surrender. He resisted because believing was stronger than leaving. And even abandoned, it stayed there, maybe waiting for that thank you, perhaps imagining that one day he would be called again, maybe making a mistake, but continuing. Now, what comes next is even heavier, because it is not enough to have been forgotten. There is a moment when they recognize it too late. There is a moment when they try to rescue someone who has already passed away. There is a moment when ingratitude turns into remorse. And on that day, you will see how Veludo reacted, or if he reacted, to this turn of events. Don't miss what comes now, because the pain of abandonment is still far from over. That morning seemed the same as the others. The sun rising timidly, the smell of the earth damp with dew, the birds singing as if nothing had changed. But inside the farm, something was breaking. To Velvet, everything felt the same. He stood up, tried to shake his aching body, took a deep breath. He looked around, waited for the call, waited for the look that always came to send him to work. But the call didn't come. The look didn't appear. The reward he had awaited for so many years, not a shadow of it, because the reward, if it existed, was marked by the cruelty of ingratitude and the silence of negligence. Veludo's life, made of sacrifice and loyalty, culminated in a moment he had never dreamed of, being discarded as if he had never served. For years he carried, pulled, endured, and therefore at the height of his weakness, what he received as a reward was abandonment. When the younger ones received new food, rest, praise, he had plenty left over. When the boss and his family celebrated at sunset, gathered on the porch, he remained in the shade, alone, watching. He would wake up expecting at least someone to say thank you. Instead, the phrase disappeared. There was no letter, there was no announcement, just a tacit agreement that Velvet no longer had a place in the routine. The pension, if it existed, was minimal or non-existent. He had no contract, no health insurance, no security. Instead, a replacement calf, strong legs, new coat, and Velvet was left aside. He walked through the pasture, swatting away flies with just his tired gaze, his ribs slowly appearing. The abandonment was so subtle, or so brutal, that he hardly noticed until the weight became unbearable. And at that moment, when he needed rest, when his body begged for a gesture of friendship, when his servant's heart sought recognition, who appeared? Nobody. The boss, who had said so many times, "This ox is part of the farm," turned to look at another, ignoring Veludo. The workers, who had already patted him on the back with good work, now didn't even come close. The family that took the shadow as their shelter now sought other shadows. And Velvet? He stayed. He waited. He stood his ground, because it was his nature. But nature does not support those who do not look. One rainy morning, Velvet tripped in the mud and fell. The paw stopped, the pain paralyzed. He squirmed, lowered his head, slime covering his dirty fur. He looked up to the sky, as if searching for an answer. Why now? Why me? But silence responded again. The boss drove by, stopped for a second, looked at him, and continued, without even turning around to see if Veludo was getting up or needed help. And there, in the cold clay, Velvet felt the weight of betrayal, the weight of ingratitude. The reward became the punishment of oblivion. There was a letter. A simple folded sheet of paper left near the water hose, with ink blots that had run down in the rain. It was the boss's, or perhaps the Treasury Secretariat. The cold words said, "As decided by the administration, you will be destined for the pasture of rest. From now on, you will no longer be required for any task. We thank you for your years of service." And nothing else. No good rest, without being able to enjoy your old age. No, we will do our best for you. Just mechanical thanks. Veludo read, or at least understood, that he served too much. and now he was dismissed. The crumpled paper on the floor, being stepped on by Velvet's paws, symbolized everything. The reward symbol became the discard symbol. He pulled the letter out with his nose, read it again. The wind took away some of the ink. The words fell apart. He swallowed his suffering in silence. He never asked for anything. I just wanted to do good. I just wanted someone to say, "Your life served." I just wish someone would say, "You mattered." But it mattered only as long as it produced. When productivity dropped, when sweat didn't flow like it used to, when your steps slowed, when your breath faltered, the reward stopped. Abandonment appeared. He had to ask for help. Not directly. I couldn't. He never complained. But the limping paws, the giving up weight, the shadow that no longer protected him, everything screamed for help. And when he needed it most, no one showed up. It became a symbol of poorly rewarded sacrifice. The other people on the farm began to avoid Veludo. The young rivals of his generation sat around at the end of the day but did not invite him. The foreman avoided contact. The boss delegated the task of feeding Veludo to a novice helper who had other things to do. The quality of the feed changed. Before it was selected grain, now it was leftover waste. The shelter that previously had solid wood was replaced by torn canvas. Velvet felt. He knew something had changed. It wasn't just the body, it was the meaning. It became a museum piece for a farm that had been passed on to the next generation. Meanwhile, the outside world continued to spin. The farm patriarch talked about profits, modernization, expansion. He hired machines, bought tractors, brought in new employees. At family gatherings, Sunday lunches, he would say, "We have to move forward." Velvet, he was left behind. He remained on the margins of this progress. He pulled the past, the weight of his predecessors, the history of the farm. But progress was unknown to him. His sacrifice became the past. Abandonment became a gift. One late afternoon, Veludo pulled himself up to the fence and looked at the horizon of the farm, where the sun was setting in a semi-orange tone. There, in the distance, the boss watched the harvest of new machines, children laughing on the porch, horses galloping. Velvet felt the wind on his face, the smell of freshly plowed earth, and a deep pain. He remembered the days when, as a young man, he was the first to get up, the last to rest. He remembered the hands that stroked his fur that morning, the low praise, "Good job, Velvet." Everything evaporated. Gratitude became absence, and the reward was this: abandonment. Can you feel this moment? Imagine this ox who loved to serve, who dedicated his entire life, and who now, in the twilight of his existence, receives the minimum or nothing. He could have asked for help. I could have complained, but he doesn't. He never asked for anything. I just wanted to do good. I just wanted the world to look at him before they forgot him. And as he looked at the setting sun, he understood that serving and being recognized don't always go hand in hand. Sometimes those who give everything receive nothing. Sometimes those who love and work are left forgotten, and that hurts. If you've met someone like this, someone who sacrificed, who served with loyalty, which was abandoned in the end, comment here, "I see you," or "I wasn't forgotten," or even, "Yes, I was someone's Velvet." I want to see it in the comments. I want you to share. Because this story's about you, about me, about everyone who gave too much and was rewarded with silence. And it's not over yet. Unfair reward has consequences. The body slowly, the spirit exhausted, the memory that no longer recognizes the place. Velvet was left to die little by little. With each passing day, he got up with more difficulty. He appeared in shadow, without the vigor he had before. The traces of youth were erased. The marks of years of service showed on the bones and fur. The ox that was once a symbol was now a warning. Do not ignore those who serve. Do not cultivate those who produce, and despise those who grow old. And so, in this moment that you are watching, in this connection that we are building, remember, it's not just about Veludo. It's about all those who dedicated their lives and found themselves abandoned. It's about sacrifice that didn't earn affection, loyalty that didn't earn thanks, service that didn't earn recognition. And if you're thinking, this story represents me, leave the comment, yes, my sacrifice matters. I want you to say this. I want other people to see that they are not alone. As dusk fell in that farm valley and the moon rose shyly, Velvet just stood up once more, looked at the sky, let out a sigh that no one heard. He gave his all, and in the end, there was only silence. The unfair reward was written all over his face, on his body, in his presence, but no one apparently noticed. And if they noticed, they chose to ignore it. And now, as we move on to the part to come, you will see how that silence was broken, or attempted to be broken. How ingratitude aroused remorse, how the career of sacrifice became a bitter memory, and how Velvet reacted, or not, to the belated recognition. Stay with me, and prepare to continue this journey of pain, abandonment, and deep reflection. Night fell slowly over the farm like a dark veil, covering the pain that no one wanted to see. The silence was so profound that every sound seemed like a muffled scream. Velvet, lying under the shade of a gnarled tree, did not sleep. He just looked at the sky, as if trying to find an explanation in the stars that the earth refused to give. It was there, in that moment of raw loneliness, that the inevitable question arose. Why? Why, after serving so much, was he left like this? Why did all that loyalty end in such cold abandonment? And even though this question only echoed in the tired heart of an ox, it said a lot about us. How many like him are there out there? How many Velvets live among us in silence after a lifetime of dedication? How many parents, grandparents, anonymous workers, forgotten servants, people who supported homes, companies, institutions, families, and today are alone? How many gave their all, expecting just a word of gratitude, a gesture of affection, a look of recognition, and didn't receive even that? It's easy to look ahead and ignore those left behind, but whoever stayed also lived. He felt it too. He also dreamed. Velvet may have just been an ox, but what he represents goes far beyond that. It is the reflection of a society that uses, sucks, exploits, and then forgets. He is the living metaphor for those who have no voice, those who serve with humility, those who believe that kindness will be enough, and then discover that, in the real world, it isn't always. He is the symbol of those who carried the weight of others silently, and who in the end receive only silence as an answer. His story is a story of many real lives, of women who dedicated their youth to caring for their children, their parents, their husbands, and who today live forgotten in silent homes, of workers who opened companies, helped communities, created jobs, and today are barely remembered, of elderly people who were heroes in their homes and who today have no one to talk to. And the worst part, many don't even realize that they have been forgotten because they are still waiting. They still believe. They still have faith in gratitude, even when it doesn't come. Do you know what hurts the most? It's just that, for those who love to serve, abandonment is more cruel than death itself, because the body can withstand physical pain, but the heart cannot handle being ignored. Velvet didn't just die of old age, exhaustion, or illness. He died of neglect. He died little by little, each time he passed by someone and was not seen, each time he heard his name and was followed by a sigh of disinterest, each time he served without being remembered. He died inside himself, before his body gave up, and this, unfortunately, is not unique to him. How many times have you seen someone who gave everything and received nothing? How many times have you felt this way yourself? And worse, how many times have you failed to recognize someone who was on your side? Do I stand in silence, carrying the weight you didn't even know existed? This story is not just about an animal. It's not about a farm. It's not about the field. It's about everyone who is forgotten after giving their entire lives. And this could be happening on your side right now. It doesn't have to be grand. Sometimes a simple thank you changes everything. A gesture, a look, a recognition that can save someone from invisibility. because no one wants to live, let alone die, feeling like they were used and discarded. No one wants to feel that their story has turned to dust, that their name has disappeared in the rush of others. This reflection is for all of us, for those who have been veludo, for those who know a velvet, for those who have the chance to prevent someone else from going through this. Don't wait for time to erase those who were by your side. Don't wait for the body to wear out to offer care. Don't wait for silence to shout louder than love. And if you've come this far, if this story has touched you in some way, if you've seen someone in Veludo's face or even seen yourself, I want to ask you something simple, but one that can make all the difference. Write in the comments, "I see you," if you recognize someone who deserves to be remembered. Write, "I was once velvet," if at any point you felt used and ignored. Or even, "I don't want to forget anyone," if you believe we can do things differently. Share this story. Send it to someone who needs to hear this. Sometimes it is through the pain of an ox that we see the silence of thousands of lives. Sometimes it is through rural abandonment that we realize how much humanity still needs to learn about gratitude, memory, and empathy. Because what happened to Velvet is still happening, and maybe together we can prevent it from happening again.